Let's talk about doing watercolor on an art journal background. I thought that this would be a good other media, so an other type of place that you could do backgrounds and also play around with watercolor and what it can look like on your background. So this is going to be a little bit different, but very similar to the background, to what you would do on like cardstock for a scrapbook page. And if you want to do this on for layout, go right ahead and do it, because I think it would be fun too. So what I am doing, instead of using gesso, I am using absorbent ground, and this is golden. I'll make sure that I have this on the list of supplies or things that you could use. And this works really well for watercolor. So you could also do this with any of the backgrounds. So you could use this as a primer on any of the backgrounds that you did. I have this video on 2-speed, so it will not be as slow as some of the other videos where I did those in real time. I don't think we need it to be as slow, since this is similar things and different it's similar techniques to what I was doing before. So I will be using a mix of some shimmer pots and some sprays as well, so you can be aware. I realize that there is nothing going on right now. I guess I should have walked through this, but that's okay. We're on this fun little journey because I did some of these for this class a while ago. So I am letting this dry. This is a product that you do want to dry first. If you add media to it, it will just kind of mix in with it and it won't give you a proper seal. And that is the nice thing about ground absorbent or absorbent ground, is that there is a little bit more texture and tooth to it. So it will really help on your pages. It works the best for watercolor like products, or really watery products, as opposed to gesso, where gesso is not really, it works just as well, but it's not specific to watercolor. And I think because of the tooth that this has, and that is just the texture that's in it, that's going to help it not leak in. It gives a really nice, good coverage. This one is a little bit white. As you can see, my art journal is a bigger art journal, so it's more of a square. It's not a super big one. I think it's 8x8. So I really like this size. I have a few different ones. So I would recommend that if you want to play around with any of these techniques, using an art journal is a great place to do that as well, because you can get some pages going and just play with the techniques, and then you really get to see how your watercolor or liquid medium is going to work on your pages. And this is a good place to learn and just play. That's how you're going to get good at this. So the colors that I'm using are fall light colors. I am using like the shimmers, inklings, and different pots where you usually have to add water to them. So yeah. So any of the watercolors or colors that you would use, you should use, make sure you use enough water to blend it. You can also get like a palette. I have some that I use to mix colors, or that I can add the color to and get the concentration of how much of the product that I want compared to water. So that's the nice thing about watercolors, is you can use a lot more water to the paint ratio and you're going to get a lot lighter of a look, or you can use really saturated by using a little bit less water. And because we're not doing like sparkles or sprinkles on this or splatters, you don't need to worry as much. So I'm using like a broad tipped brush on here. In a lot of the other videos, I used a pointy or more rounded one. I would definitely recommend that at some point, if you really love to do watercolors, getting a couple of medium nice ones. You don't have to have super expensive brushes, but it is nice to have some really good ones. So I'm just going to take some of these colors and blotch them around. I did add water with that fine brush, and this is going to just help the colors get sloshy on that page and move around a little bit. This gives it really that watercolor look, I think. I'm not trying to make any design except for just fill in that white space with colors, but I don't necessarily want all my colors to touch. As you can see, the two top blobs did touch, and that's okay. But I definitely want it to not touch as much. So I do think that the ground absorbent comes off a little bit more on your paintbrush. I will say that. And so I'm just going to do the same thing with that same yellowy orange color. I think it's a peach color. So it's a really pretty color. And later on, I add some other media to this. So I will probably share that in the second half of the class. So we'll be going through on the second half using all of these. I also will be adding some more other watercolor like techniques, like doing some watercolor on like some tags and using them like on embellishments. So, or doing a background and then making embellishments out of it. So I wanted to do a couple of different things like that in the second half. So to show you like how you can, if your background didn't turn out the way you wanted it to turn out, how you can turn it into something else. So definitely feel free to ask questions, and if there's something that I didn't do that you would like me to do, post it, because then I can add that to everything. So I'm just going back around and adding more paint and some more water. There's really no rhyme or reason except for I'm just kind of trying to or thinking about filling in that space, all that white space with the different colors. So it's really just playing. Like I said, I feel like with watercolors, the more you play around with the products, doing it differently, the more you get an idea of how it's going to actually work. So in the beginning, when I started doing all of this, as you can see, I changed out my water, and I like to do, so this is one thing I'm going to say, is I like to switch out my water quite a bit, because once you really mix certain colors together, they're just not gonna, it will always be a different color than what you wanted. As you can see, this one I think has a little bit more metallic to it because it is sitting a lot more on the page than that peachy color, orangey peach color. And if you don't want, like if you're using an art journal and you don't want the color to go in the crease, I use a paper towel a lot of times to like stop and like catch that so it doesn't all go in the inside, because it will go in the binding and it could go on a different page if you're not careful. So there we go. But I found that when I started, I just played around. I just got a whole bunch of cardstock and just did lots of different things. And this is how you really learn. And some of those pages you're actually probably not going to want to use as a background because it could be crazy. And this is where cutting it up or doing other things to it will help you be able to learn, because you'll learn how your product is going to move on your page. And I think that's really important when you're wanting to do backgrounds with watercolor or any kind of mixed media, but watercolor in general. So I am just going straight from the bottle to my page. I think this is Keep Palm. It's a darker green, so I'm just gonna go in next to some of this other green and fill in some more white spaces. This is really just adding product, letting it move around, seeing how it's going to move. Because of that ground absorbent, and the primer and there was a little bit of water on there, it will just kind of move a little bit. And depending on the slope, like where in your book your pages fall will depend on like the angle in which things are gonna drip and move around. This is a shimmers color, so basically you don't need to add liquid. I find that sometimes I like to add a little bit more to thin it out because it can be really, really thick and it doesn't work so much like a watercolor. And it needs to be stirred around. So that's just what I'm doing right now. You can't see that. As you can see, some of that green moved into the yellow and it looks really cool. And I think that's the fun part about doing a page like this. It is just, you know, a mixed media page and it looks kind of crazy, but once you add other things to it, a lot of times I find that with the watercolor, you're just building a layer and you're going to want to add something else to it. But not all the time. So I think knowing the purpose and what you're wanting to do on your page will help you get to where you want to go. So if you know you want to add more things, you don't have to you can do a lot less or more with the page. But if you're wanting to have that be the only thing that you see, you want to be a little bit more intentional about where you're putting your product and how your product is falling on the page or on the page. So that's why like droplets I like to do on their own, because if you get the perfect droplet, it doesn't matter. So I'm filling in some more spaces. As you can see, this is a lot thicker. I actually wish, as I'm watching this, that I had a little bit more water in it. I'm not sure if I add water to it. That would be kind of nice to see it flow a little bit more, because I'm just going in and not really doing anything major, just filling in some spots and all that kind of stuff. So I am almost done with this, so I will just let you finish watching this, and later through the month you'll see where things are going to go. I think I'm going to add a little bit of water to some of these and let them kind of move around. That'll be nice. It'll lessen some of that yellow a little bit too. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope that this was kind of fun just watching me play, and I hope that you guys get a chance to play too and just learn your products.